What if I told you that everything you've been taught about confidence is a lie? Yeah? That fake it till you make it garbage. It's keeping you stuck. You see, confidence isn't some magical trait that only a few lucky people have. It's a skill, and most of us are getting it completely wrong. But here's the kicker. You'll never get there unless you start doing these things. And trust me, some of them will make you uncomfortable, ready to get real. Let's dive in. 1. Stop comparing yourself to others. All right. This one's going to hit hard because I know you're guilty of it. We all are. Comparing yourself to others is like playing the world's dumbest game that no one ever wins. And I get it. You scroll through Instagram and there's Karen with her perfect beach body, or Dave with his six-figure startup, and you start thinking, wow, I'm doing nothing with my life. Sound familiar? Trust me, I've been there. I used to scroll through social media and see all these people living their best lives. Meanwhile, I was sitting there eating cold pizza in my pajamas, feeling like a total failure. But here's the thing they don't tell you. It's all fake. Karen doesn't show you the part where she's crying because she's overwhelmed, and Dave doesn't post about the sleepless nights wondering if his business is going to crash and burn. You're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. That's like comparing your Monday morning to their Saturday night. It's not even the same game. Here's the truth. Comparing yourself to others is a trap, and it'll kill your confidence faster than anything else. You're running your race, not theirs. And if you keep looking at other people's lanes, you're going to trip over your own feet. Everyone's journey is different. You don't know the struggles they've been through, and they don't know yours. The only person you should be comparing yourself to is the version of you from yesterday. Are you better than you were last week, last month? That's what matters. I'll be honest, I wasted years of my life trying to catch up to people who I thought were ahead of me. Friends who had the perfect job, the perfect life, or even strangers who seemed like they had it all together. But it wasn't until I stopped chasing their definition of success and focused on my own path that I started to feel real confidence. Because guess what? You'll never be them. You're you, and that's your power. Your journey is unique, and no one else can live it but you. And look, if all else fails, just remember this. No one's thinking about you as much as you think they are. Most people are too busy worrying about their own stuff to even notice. So, stop wasting time trying to measure up to some imaginary standard that doesn't exist. The deep truth is this. When you stop comparing yourself to others, you start finding peace in who you are. And with that peace comes confidence. It's not about being the best. It's about being your best. You don't need to be Karen or Dave. You just need to be you. And trust me, when you do that, life gets a whole lot lighter. So next time you catch yourself comparing, stop and remind yourself, I'm running my own race. And honestly, that's the only race worth winning. 2. Cut off toxic people. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. You've got to cut off toxic people. Yes, I said it. Snip, snip. And before you start feeling all defensive, let's be real for a second. You know exactly who I'm talking about. You've got that one friend, family member, or co-worker who's always draining your energy, making you doubt yourself, or just bringing constant negativity into your life. But you keep them around because, what? You feel guilty? You've known them forever? Sorry, but that's no excuse to let them hold you back from being the confident, thriving person you're meant to be. Look, I used to be a people-pleaser extraordinaire. I thought I could fix people, help them see the light, make everyone happy. And guess what? It never worked. I'd leave every conversation with certain people feeling exhausted, like they had sucked the life right out of me. These people would complain about everything, never celebrate my wins, and somehow always make me feel guilty for their problems. At some point, I had to wake up and realize These people are toxic, and no amount of positive vibes is going to change that. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Some of those toxic people are going to be people you're close to. Maybe it's your childhood friend who's been in your life for years, but constantly drags you into their drama. Maybe it's even a family member. Yep, I said it. Family can be toxic too. And I know we're conditioned to think that family gets a free pass because blood is thicker than water. But let me tell you something. Your sanity is thicker than any guilt trip your toxic family member is trying to pull. I had a friend, let's call him Mike. We'd been friends for years, and in the beginning it was great. But over time, I started to notice that every time I hung out with Mike, I'd leave feeling drained. He'd talk down to me, make sarcastic comments about my goals, and if I ever accomplished something, he'd shrug it off like it was no big deal. I started doubting myself, thinking, maybe I'm overreacting, or maybe I need to try harder to support him. But one day I realized, no, Mike was the problem. I wasn't doing anything wrong by growing, and he couldn't handle it. I had to make the painful decision to cut ties, and let me tell you, it was like taking a 50-pound weight off my shoulders. Now, I'm not saying you have to send them a breakup text like, hey, you're toxic, bye. Though, hey, if that's your style, I respect it. But you do need to set boundaries and limit your exposure to people who aren't adding to your life. And if they keep crossing those boundaries, that's when it's time to go full-on Marie Kondo and declutter your relationships. If they don't spark joy, they've got to go. Here's the thing. Your environment shapes you more than you realize, and that includes the people you surround yourself with. If you're constantly around people who are negative, draining, or toxic, guess what? That's going to seep into your mindset, whether you like it or not. You can't build confidence when you're surrounded by people who constantly tear you down or make you question your worth. Confidence grows in healthy, supportive environments, not in toxic ones. Cutting toxic people out of your life is hard. It's uncomfortable. It might make you feel like the bad guy. But here's the truth. You're not responsible for fixing other people's issues. You're responsible for protecting your peace. And when you do that, you'll start to notice how much lighter, happier, and confident you feel. I did. Once I started putting distance between myself and those toxic influences, I had more energy to focus on my goals, my happiness, and my growth. It was like I could finally breathe again. So yeah, it might be controversial, but sometimes the best thing you can do for your confidence is pull out the scissors and snip those toxic relationships. Life's too short to carry dead weight, my friends. Surround yourself with people who lift you up, not tear you down. Trust me, you'll thank yourself later. And remember, this isn't about being cruel or heartless. It's about self-respect. It's about realizing that your time, your energy, and your mental well-being are worth protecting. The more you prioritize yourself, the more confident you become. And that, my friends, is how you build a life where you call the shots, not toxic people. So if you've got a Mike in your life, or that one friend who's always bringing you down, you know what to do. Snip, snip. You deserve better. We all do. 3. Speak up. All right, this one's going to make some of you squirm in your seats, but let's just get it out there. You need to speak up. And before you start with, but I don't want to cause drama, or I'm just not a confrontational person, let me stop you right there. Silence is not a virtue. Silence keeps you invisible. You think you're keeping the peace by staying quiet, but really, you're just shrinking yourself down to make other people comfortable. And let's be honest, that's not confidence, that's self-sabotage. Look, I get it. I used to be the king of silence. I'd sit in meetings nodding along like a bobblehead, even though half the time I had questions, ideas, or gasp, even disagreements. But I didn't want to be that person. You know, the one who speaks up and makes everyone pause. I thought staying quiet made me easygoing, but really, it was just me letting fear run the show. Here's where it gets real. People aren't going to magically know your thoughts or opinions unless you speak them out loud. Shocking, right? And while I'm at it, let's drop this ridiculous idea that you should stay silent to avoid rocking the boat. Guess what? The boat needs to be rocked sometimes. Confidence isn't about keeping everything smooth and easy. It's about being authentic, about showing up fully as yourself, even when your voice might ruffle some feathers. And here's the controversial part. If you're not speaking up, you're complicit in your own invisibility. Harsh? Maybe. True? Absolutely. Staying quiet because you're afraid of what others might think is a sure way to make sure your ideas, your needs, and even you never matter. It's like showing up to the party but standing in the corner, hoping someone magically invites you into the conversation. Spoiler alert, it's not happening. If you want to be heard, you have to say something. I remember the first time I really forced myself to speak up, and believe me, it was terrifying. I was at work, and there was this big meeting where everyone was agreeing on some project plan that, deep down, I knew wasn't going to work. But I was sitting there, debating with myself like, do I say something? Am I going to look like a jerk if I speak up? Meanwhile, my gut was screaming, say something, don't just nod along. So I finally blurted it out. Actually, I don't think this is the best approach. The room went dead silent. And let me tell you, in that moment, I wanted to crawl under the table and disappear. But here's the twist. After that awkward silence, the conversation completely shifted. People started asking me questions, digging into the points I raised, and get this, we ended up changing the entire plan. My idea actually made things better. Who knew? That moment was a wake-up call for me. I realized that every time I stayed silent, I was doing a disservice not just to myself, but to the people around me. Because sometimes your voice is the one that's needed. And that's the thing. Speaking up isn't just about you. It's about the value you bring to the table. When you speak up, you give other people permission to think differently, to question the status quo, to see things from a new perspective. Your voice matters, even when you doubt it. But if you keep it locked inside, no one benefits from your insight, your ideas, or your experiences. And that's a tragedy, because the world needs more authentic voices, not fewer. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but what if I'm wrong? Good, be wrong. That's part of the process. You're not going to get it right every time. But that's where real confidence comes from, knowing that even if you're wrong, it's okay. You can handle it. The point is, you're in the game, you're contributing, and that builds a kind of self-assurance that staying silent never will. And here's a little secret. People who speak up, even when they're wrong, often end up being more respected than the ones who sit quietly, hoping no one notices them. Why? Because at least they have the guts to put themselves out there. They're showing that they believe in their thoughts enough to voice them. That's confidence in action. But beyond the meetings, the awkward moments, and the fear of judgment, speaking up is about something even deeper. It's about self-respect. It's about telling yourself that your voice is just as important as anyone else's, that your thoughts, feelings, and perspectives deserve to be heard. Because if you don't advocate for yourself, who will? Confidence isn't waiting for someone else to give you permission to speak. It's taking the floor and saying, I belong here. So the next time you're sitting in a meeting, at a dinner table, or in any situation where you feel that itch to speak up but hesitate, don't. Jump in, say your piece, and own it. Whether you're right, wrong, or somewhere in between, at least you had the courage to put your voice out there. And trust me, that courage is what builds real confidence. Plus, if you're like me, half the time people will be thinking, wow, I was wondering the same thing but didn't want to say it. You're doing everyone a favor. So speak up. Rock the boat a little. It's time for you to stop being a background character in your own story. Take the mic and own your spotlight. You've earned it. 4. Fail a lot. All right, brace yourself because I'm about to drop the truth bomb that nobody wants to hear. You need to fail. Not once, not twice, but a lot. I'm talking epic, faceplant, what the hell am I doing kind of failures. And here's the kicker. Failure is not just inevitable, it's essential. Yeah, I said it. You're not going to be confident until you fail, so get ready to mess up, because that's how you actually build real confidence. I know, failing isn't fun. Nobody wakes up like, today feels like a great day to totally screw everything up. But here's the thing. If you're afraid of failure, you'll never push yourself hard enough to achieve anything meaningful. You'll play it safe, stick to what you know, and guess what? There's zero growth in your comfort zone. Confidence isn't built by avoiding failure. It's built by staring it in the face, taking the hit, and getting back up. Each time you do, you're sending a message to yourself, I can handle this. I used to be so terrified of failure that I wouldn't even try new things unless I was 99% sure I'd succeed. Let me tell you, it was a miserable way to live. I was constantly stuck in my little bubble, watching other people take risks and wondering why I wasn't getting anywhere. And then one day, big surprise, I failed massively. I bombed a project at work that I had been so sure I'd crush. I'm talking a full-on crash and burn situation. I was embarrassed, frustrated, and ready to crawl under a rock. But something weird happened. I didn't die. The world didn't end. I wasn't struck by lightning. I survived. In fact, after the initial sting wore off, I realized that failing was actually kind of liberating. Once I'd gotten over the fear of it, I realized I had way more freedom. I stopped worrying so much about being perfect and started taking more risks. And guess what? I still failed plenty of times, but each time I got better, smarter, and more resilient. That's the secret no one tells you about failure. It's like going to the gym for your confidence. You don't get stronger by lifting light weights. You get stronger by pushing past your limits and feeling the burn. Here's where I'm going to lose some people, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. That's right. If your life is full of easy wins and smooth sailing, you're playing way too small. It's not a badge of honor to say, I've never failed at anything. It's a sign that you're scared of growth. And look, failure isn't just about learning from your mistakes. It's about proving to yourself that you can survive them. That's where the real confidence comes from. It's not from avoiding failure. It's from knowing you can handle it and come out stronger on the other side. Let's talk about some of the biggest legends out there. Steve Jobs. He got fired from Apple, the company he founded. Oprah, fired from her first TV job. J.K. Rowling, rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. These people weren't just magically confident. They built their confidence by failing hard and coming back swinging. If they had given up after their first failure, we wouldn't have iPhones, the Oprah Winfrey Show, or the Wizarding World. One of my favorite failures, and believe me, I've had plenty, was when I tried launching my first business. I poured my heart, soul, and savings into it, thinking I was about to take over the world. And guess what? It flopped hard. Like, I had to move back in with my parents hard. At first, I was devastated. I felt like a total loser, but after a while, I realized that failure taught me more than any success ever had. I learned about perseverance, resourcefulness, and most importantly, I learned that I could bounce back. That failure made me more confident, not less. It's like once you've fallen flat on your face, you stop being scared of it. It already happened, and you survived. And that's the deeper message here. Failure doesn't define you. It refines you. It strips away the ego, the perfectionism, the fear of judgment, and shows you what you're really made of. Every failure is a stepping stone, not a dead end. The more you fail, the more you learn, and the stronger you become. Failure builds resilience, and resilience is the foundation of real, unshakable confidence. 5. Surround yourself with people who uplift you. All right, let's get into one of the most obvious, yet weirdly controversial truths. You need to surround yourself with people who uplift you. I know, it sounds like something you'd find on a cheesy motivational poster, but bear with me because this is where most people get it wrong. You can't build confidence in an environment full of people who secretly want to see you fail or keep you small. Nope. You need a squad that supports you, challenges you, and most importantly, believes in you. But here's the twist. Sometimes the people you thought were your biggest supporters, yeah, they're not. And that's where it gets tricky. Here's where I might upset a few people. But let's get honest. If the people closest to you aren't clapping for your wins, pushing you to grow, or calling you out on your BS, they're not uplifting you. They're holding you back. And here's the kicker. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it's the subtle stuff, like a backhanded compliment or that one friend who goes suspiciously silent when you talk about your goals. That's a red flag, my friends. If someone in your life can't handle your growth, you need to rethink that relationship. Let me share something personal. I had this friend, let's call her Sarah. We were tight for years, always hanging out, always chatting. But over time, I started to notice something. Every time I hit a milestone or shared a win, Sarah would either downplay it or straight up ignore it. If I told her about a new opportunity, she'd say something like, "That's cool, but are you sure you're ready for it?" It was subtle, but it was always there. This underlying negativity, like she couldn't stand seeing me level up. And at first, I tried to brush it off, thinking, oh, she's just looking out for me. But the more it happened, the more I realized, no, she wasn't looking out for me. She was holding me back. Now, here's where it gets controversial. You might need to let go of some relationships, even the ones that have been around for years, if they're not serving your growth. And yes, that includes close friends and sometimes even family. Look, I know we're all told that loyalty is everything, but blind loyalty to people who don't uplift you, that's just self-destruction with a nice label on it. You don't owe anyone your time or energy if they're constantly making you feel small or questioning your dreams. Period. I remember when I first started setting boundaries and limiting my time with people who weren't supporting my growth, it felt weird, uncomfortable. I worried that I was being selfish or too harsh. But the more I distanced myself from the negativity, the clearer my path became. And you know what? It freed up space for the right people, the ones who genuinely wanted to see me win, who encouraged me when I was down, and challenged me when I wasn't pushing hard enough. Let me tell you, finding your uplift crew is like upgrading from a rusty old bicycle to a sports car. Suddenly, everything feels faster, smoother, and more fun. You need people who make you feel like anything's possible, not people who are secretly hoping you stay in the same spot so they can feel better about their stagnation. You know that saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with? Well, let's do the math. Look around at your circle. Are they inspiring you or draining you? Are they pushing you forward or pulling you back? If your answer's the latter, you've got some decisions to make, my friend. And yes, that might mean you need to Marie Kondo your social circle. If they don't spark joy, they gotta go. And let me tell you, when you surround yourself with the right people, life starts to feel like it's on a whole new level. But it goes beyond just good vibes and cheerleading. Surrounding yourself with uplifting people isn't just about having a hype squad. It's about building a network of trust, accountability, and growth. The right people will call you out when you're playing small. They'll hold you to your goals and remind you of your potential when you're doubting yourself. They'll give you tough love when you need it and remind you of your why when things get hard. Here's the thing, confidence isn't something you build in isolation. It's shaped by the people around you. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, self-doubt, or people who are envious of your success, you're going to start internalizing those vibes, whether you realize it or not. That's why it's so crucial to build a community of people who make you feel like the best version of yourself. Your environment, your tribe, has a huge impact on your mindset and your self-belief. I learned this firsthand. When I started cutting ties with people who weren't uplifting, it was tough at first. I felt guilty, like I was abandoning old friends. But then, I found new people who were genuinely happy to see me win, people who inspired me to aim higher, who celebrated my victories and pushed me through my failures. That's when I really started to notice my confidence skyrocketing. I stopped doubting myself so much because I had a solid support system that reminded me of my worth when I couldn't see it for myself. And let's be real, having friends who uplift you makes everything more fun. You're not stuck in gossip or negativity. You're brainstorming new ideas, building each other up, and laughing your way through life. It's like being in a constant state of, "We've got this." And trust me, that kind of energy is contagious. When you're surrounded by people who believe in you, you start believing in yourself more too. So here's the deep truth. If you want to build real confidence, stop wasting time on people who are secretly hoping you fail and start investing in the relationships that lift you up. Find the ones who cheer for your success, support you through your struggles, and make you feel like anything is possible. Because here's the thing, when you surround yourself with the right people, you start to see that there's nothing you can't do. Your confidence stops being this fragile thing you have to protect. It becomes a solid, unshakable belief in yourself that nobody can take away. So, do yourself a favor. Go out there and find your tribe. Trust me, life's too short to be around people who aren't hyping you up. And if you need help with that, I'm always here, ready to hype you up too. Now go be great, and make sure the people around you are clapping as loud as I am for you. All right, folks, we've covered a lot today, and if you're still with me, first of all, you're a legend. Second, let's recap. Confidence isn't some mystical, unattainable trait reserved for the lucky few. It's built through intentional, sometimes uncomfortable choices, and by shifting the way you operate in your daily life. Whether it's cutting off toxic people, failing your way forward, speaking up even when it feels like your voice is shaking, or surrounding yourself with the kind of people who make you feel like you can conquer the world, this is how confidence is truly earned. Now, here's where we get real. Some of these steps, they're going to hurt. They're going to make you question things, like why you held on to toxic friendships for so long, or why you've been playing small to avoid failure. But trust me, that discomfort, that's where the growth happens. If you're coasting through life on autopilot, never pushing your limits, never shaking up your routine, well, confidence is going to remain that distant, unreachable thing. You've got to earn it through the hard stuff. And look, I'm not here to sugarcoat it or give you fluffy motivational quotes. Confidence isn't built from pretending everything's fine or by scrolling through Instagram for Monday motivation. It's built by doing the real work, facing failure, speaking your truth, surrounding yourself with uplifting people, and most importantly, taking action even when you're terrified. Oh, and if you fall flat on your face along the way, good. Now you've got a hilarious story to tell at your next party, because who wants to hear about easy wins, right? Seriously though, the journey to confidence isn't always pretty, but it's worth it. Every time you fail, every time you set a boundary with a toxic friend, every time you speak up when your heart's pounding, that's a victory. That's you telling the world, I'm not afraid to take up space, to be bold, to be unapologetically me. And that, my friends, is what confidence is all about. Now, I hope you're feeling pumped to go out there and start making some bold moves. But before you run off to cut ties with that toxic friend, or finally sign up for that scary project you've been avoiding, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up if it hit home for you. Smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on more of this no BS real talk content that's all about helping you become the best version of yourself. And hey, I want to hear from you. What's the one thing holding you back from feeling truly confident? Maybe it's fear of failure, or maybe it's time to do some social spring cleaning. Drop a comment below and let's have a conversation. Or better yet, tell me about one of your epic fails, because believe me, I've got plenty of my own, and we're all in this messy, beautiful journey together. Remember, confidence doesn't come from perfection, it comes from progress. It comes from making mistakes, learning from them, and surrounding yourself with people who lift you higher. You already have everything inside you to be the most confident, unstoppable version of yourself. You just need to start making those moves, one step at a time. All right, go be great, make bold choices, fail big, cut off some toxic people, and don't forget to come back and tell me all about it in the comments. See you in the next one.